The snowfall had turned the deserted city into something unreal, almost staged. Claire Hendra stared through the transport's narrow window as hollowed-out buildings slid past. Their windows gaped like lifeless sockets, walls wrapped in thick,
We need to talk
white
about
layers
this
that
now.
felt more like
I know,
burial
but not
cloths than
here.
snow. The road hadn't been cleared for weeks. The driver, a young man who couldn't have been more than 22, kept both hands locked on the steering wheel, guiding the vehicle more by instinct than visibility. Outpost Delta 7, 2 clicks, he said, his voice stripped of emotion. The practiced neutrality of someone who'd learned that caring too much was dangerous. Claire didn't answer. Her duffel rested between her boots, filled with unremarkable things: civilian clothes, a few paperbacks, nothing that hinted she once held the longest confirmed kill record in this entire theater. 32 months since her last deployment. 32 months of training recruits who jumped at sharp noises, of paperwork that vanished into drawers, of convincing herself that a desk counted as purpose. The base emerged through the snowfall, like something out of another era. Concrete barriers, coils of razor wire, guard towers that looked half broken but weren't. Claire recognized the language immediately. Sandbags stacked where walls had failed, metal plates welded over old blast scars. This wasn't just a base, it was a declaration. We're still here. At the gate, a guard checked her civilian ID once, then again, then a third time. Captain Hendricks isn't expecting visitors, he said, suspicion edging his voice. His name patch read Morrison. She's my sister. Something shifted in his expression, not warmth exactly, but recalibration, recognition. Carried weight here. The Hendricks twins. The stories always arrive before the people. Identical faces, opposite approaches, both handling rifles before they could drive, both enlisting the same week, both becoming snipers by very different roads. Claire wondered which version of the myth this kid believed. Wait here. 5 minutes later, Captain Rachel Hendra stepped out of the operations building. Her fatigues were faded from countless washes, camouflage pattern barely holding together. Ash blonde hair pulled tight into regulation, same sharp jawline as Claire's, same gray-green eyes, same stance. Weight forward, ready to move. She stopped 3 feet away. You're not supposed to be here. 48-hour leave. I'm allowed to see family. This isn't a holiday camp. I know what it is. Claire lifted her duffel. I trained half the people who built it. Rachel's jaw tightened, the same tell she'd had since childhood when she was angry but outmatched. 72 hours, she said. Then you're on the next transport out. No exceptions, understood. They walked through the base without speaking. Claire took everything in automatically. Defensive arcs, sightlines, weak perimeter points. Soldiers stared, whispered, did double takes. Legends multiplied fast in places like this. Rachel's quarters were bare, a cot, a footlocker, a desk layered with weather charts and topographical maps. One photograph sat alone. To 16-year-old girls, holding their father's hunting rifles, grinning like they'd cracked some secret code of the universe. You've lost weight, Claire said. Rations have been thin. Supply convoys are 3 weeks late. Rachel handed her a bottle of water. Command keeps promising reinforcements, she continued. We keep adapting. How many in your unit? 37, down from 52. Combat, no. Medical evacs, rotations that never got replaced. One idiot shot himself cleaning his weapon. The city beyond the window was silent under the snow. Officially abandoned, Rachel said. Unofficially, not empty. We track movement every few days. Scavengers, scouts. We don't fire unless fired on. Intel says the main force pulled back east, Claire said. This is a monitoring post now, Rachel replied. You don't believe that? I believe quiet sectors get loud when you stop respecting them. Claire studied the maps. Red marks, blue positions, green escape routes. A mine that never shut off. The bell tower, Claire said. 300 meters northwest. Collapsed last month. Snow load. Good overwatch before it fell. The implication settled between them. Why are you really here, Rachel asked. Claire met her eyes. Because I missed you. Try again. Because a desk is driving me insane. And because I keep dreaming about this place. Rachel waited. Because instinct. Silence stretched. How long since you fired? Rachel asked. 8 months. Qualification range. That's the long. I know. That night, Claire couldn't sleep. The cot was fine. She'd endured worse, but the air felt wrong. She dressed quietly and moved through the base, past sleeping soldiers and silent equipment lockers. Guided by muscle memory toward the armory, the duty officer looked up from his flashlight. Relaxed when he saw her badge, just restless. Claire said. Mind if I look round? He hesitated, then nodded. Captain Hendricks cleared you. Don't touch anything. The smell hit her immediately. Oil, metal, memory, standard issue. Rifles, designated marksman weapons, 3 aging sniper systems, cared for but tired. Her fingers ached to feel one again. That one's mine. Claire turned. Rachel stood in the doorway, thermal jacket over her fatigues. She lifted a rifle bolt action. Suppressed, heavily modified. You remember the basics? Rachel asked. Claire accepted the weapon. The weight settled like something long missed. Show me. They stepped into the cold night. Together, asterisk asterisk. The outdoor range sat wrapped in barriers and sound baffles. Buried under a thin crust of fresh snow, the storm had paused, leaving the night sharp and crystalline. The kind of cold that burned the lungs on every breath. Rachel moved with practiced efficiency, setting targets at staggered distances while Claire adjusted to the rifle's balance, reacquainting herself with the subtle differences in weight and response. 300 meters. Rachel said, wind northwest, 8 knots. Temperature -12. Claire dropped into position. The motions returned without effort. Breathing slowed. Pulse settled. The world narrowing until there was nothing but scope, reticle, and distance. The mental static she'd lived with for months evaporated. The trigger broke clean. The rifle recoiled. 300 meters out. The target punched dead center. Again, Rachel said. 500. They moved through distances methodically. Wind calls, elevation, drift. Numbers that once lived in Claire's bones shaking loose their rust. Rachel watched without comment, making small adjustments to her own rifle, tracking Claire's reacclimation with a quiet, professional eye. 1 round. Rachel finally said. 750. Far berm cluster. They fired together. 2 impacts landed close enough to overlap. Rachel lowered her rifle first. You're still dangerous. Different approach. Claire said. You favor speed, urban doctrine. Rachel replied. Shoot fast or die waiting. They broke the rifles down for cleaning. Hands moving automatically through familiar rituals. You remember what Dad used to say. Rachel asked. A sniper's best weapon isn't the rifle. It's time. He was wrong. Rachel paused only briefly. Time matters, but only if you survive long enough to use it. They worked in silence, the easy quiet of shared history. Then Claire spoke softly. You remember the pact. Rachel's hand stilled. If one of us fires, the other watches. Still valid. Always. The wind rose again, snow skittering across the range. Claire stared toward the city's broken skyline. Something's coming, she said. Rachel didn't question it. I know. The attack hit at 03 for 7, time precisely for shift change. Claire was already awake, standing by the window when the northern perimeter erupted in fire. The communications tower disintegrated in sparks and twisted metal. 3 seconds later, the blast wave slammed into the base. Alarm screamed. Lights died. Backup power surged, then faltered. Rachel was moving instantly, vest and rifle in hand. Stay inside. No. Claire was already pulling on her jacket, her mind dissecting what she'd seen. Coordinated strikes, infrastructure first, confusion. Engineered. This wasn't harassment, it was an execution attempt. Outside, chaos snapped into order. Soldiers poured from barracks, NCOs shouted commands. Defensive positions filled with practiced speed. Lieutenant Morrison coordinated the north, blood streaking down his face from a head wound. Contact northeast and southwest. A round caught him in the shoulder, spinning him down. Rachel dragged him behind cover. How many? She demanded. Unknown. Snipers. Maybe 30. They killed comms. Morrison gasped. We're isolated. Major Walsh appeared, low and fast, voice cutting through noise with authority. Earned over decades. Captain Hendricks overwatch. The bell tower's gone, Rachel said. East side crane. Do it. Rachel glanced at Claire. Walsh followed her look, recognition flashing. The twin, he muttered. Can you shoot? Yes, sir. Then shoot. Rounds intensified, pinning defenders. Claire grabbed a rifle from a wounded soldier who no longer needed it. Wrong balance, wrong feel. It would have to work. Split, Rachel said. I'll take the crane, the water tower. Claire replied. 300 southeast. You'll be exposed. I'll be effective. 3 seconds of eye contact, then a single nod. Sharp, Rachel said. Don't die, you either. They separated into fire and snow, the base already turning into a kill zone. Claire ran low, using wreckage and shadow. Bullets cracked past, close enough to feel. The rifle, a Remington 700, wasn't her preference, but it spoke a familiar language. The water tower loomed, skeletal and iced. She hit the ladder at a sprint, climbing as rounds sparked against metal, lungs burned, cold sliced. She reached the platform and dropped into position. From here, the northeast approach lay open. 7 muzzle flashes, elevated, professional. Claire chambered around, found her breathing. The dance began again. Claire settled into the rhythm immediately, the familiar cadence of observation and calculation returning as if it had never left. Her scope swept the ruined buildings beyond the perimeter, catching flashes of movement between shattered windows and collapsed floors. These weren't amateurs, the placements were deliberate. Angles chosen with care. Someone had studied this base. She found her first target in a 4th floor window. Roughly 400 meters out, wind gusted unpredictably at this height, curling around steel and concrete. She compensated, squeezed. The figure vanished backward. From the frame, instant response. Fire snapped toward her position. Claire rolled aside as rounds tore through the catwalk where she'd been lying seconds before. Metal screened. She tucked into new cover, reacquired, fired again. Another silhouette dropped. Below, the defense was tightening. Walsh had positioned his people well overlapping arcs. Mobile reaction elements, discipline under pressure, but they were outnumbered and paying for it. The enemy held elevation and initiative. Her radio crackled. Tower, this is Crane. Rachel's voice cut through static. I have eyes on enemy command. 800 meters northeast, 3rd structure. Past the monument, civilian clothing, coordinating by radio. Claire swung her scope, scanned, found the building, the window, a partial figure behind concrete. 800 meters, this wind, this rifle, I can't make that, Claire transmitted. Neither can I alone, Rachel replied. We fire together. Claire exhaled slowly. This was old muscle memory, drilled into them before either had worn a uniform. 2 angles, 1 outcome. Absolute trust. On my mark, Claire said, calculating lead and drop. Rachel went quiet. Claire held the sight picture, mentally adjusting high, right, more than felt reasonable. The cold thickened powder burn. The gust teased the shot. 3, 2, 1. Now, they fired as one. Claire couldn't see Rachel's round, but she saw the result. 2 impacts. The figure collapsed out of view. The effect rippled instantly. Enemy fire lost coherence, angles breaking down as commands went unanswered. Good hit, Rachel said. You too, but the fight escalated. Whoever took over pushed harder. Mortars walked across the compound. Machine guns pinned defenders. Claire prioritized targets, gunners, spotters, coordinators. The rifle heated despite the cold. Casings piled at her feet. She spotted Walsh organizing a push toward a fortified position. Major. She radioed. Advise hold. Who is this? Water tower. You'll walk into a crossfire. Static. Then, what's your recommendation? 2 minutes. We suppress east and west, then move. Another pause. 2 minutes. Claire relayed to Rachel. West position on my mark. Copy. She found the east side gun Nesta PKM in a blown-out storefront. Crewed smartly, she fired 3 rapid shots. The position went dead. Now, Walsh's team moved fast, crossing open ground under suppressive fire. Grenades followed. Close-range engagement. Momentum shifted. For the next half hour, Claire and Rachel were everywhere and nowhere. Shots came from impossible angles. Every enemy push collapsed under sudden precision. Every pinned defender found relief fire from the dark. Claire lost all sense of time. Only scope, breath, trigger. Eventually, movement changed. Withdrawal to clean. Don't trust it. Rachel warned. This is a feint. Claire scanned deeper into the ruins. Movement. Coordinated. Vehicle 6 at least whitewash 4. Winter. They're bringing armor. Rachel said. Light vehicles, but enough. Walsh repositioned what little anti-armor he had. It wouldn't be sufficient. Rachel studied the formation. The lead vehicle sat slightly forward. Command 850. She murmured. Bad conditions. Tafar, Claire said. It's the shot that matters. The crane swayed gently in the wind. Rachel timed it. Found stillness in motion. She breathed out, squeezed. For a heartbeat. Nothing. Then the command vehicle shuddered. Window shattering. It lurched to a stop. That hesitation broke the assault. Walsh's team struck. Rockets flying. The formation scattered. Infantry surged anyway. Desperate now. This was no longer tactics. It was sacrifice. Rachel's rifle clicked empty. I'm dry, she transmitted. Hold. Claire was already moving. Claire dropped from the tower without hesitation. Abandoning concealment for speed, she hit the ground running, snow exploding around her boots as rounds snapped past. Rachel watched through her scope, powerless to cover her. hard hammering as her sister crossed open ground toward the supply depot. Claire burst inside, reappearing seconds later with a heavy pack slung over one shoulder, an enemy fighter rounded a corner, rifle coming up. Claire didn't slow, she let the pack fall, drew her sidearm in one smooth motion, and fired twice. The body collapsed into the snow. Claire grabbed the pack again and ran. Rachel had stopped breathing. Claire reached the crane, climbed under fire, and hauled herself up, muscles burning. She tossed the pack onto the platform. 40 magazines, she said. Use them. Rachel loaded fast. You're insane. Probably. Now shoot. The enemy was at the wire, cutting through, pouring into gaps. Fighting turned brutal and close. Rachel and Claire fired in concert, carving kill zones, opening safe lanes for friendly movement. To rifles, one mind. Defenders rallied. Momentum clawed back inch by inch. Then, slowly, the pressure eased. The enemy pulled back. Dawn broke cold and pale over the ruined city. 14 dead, 23 wounded, but the base stood. Helicopters arrived hours late. Walsh briefed the colonel bluntly. To snipers, one unofficial, visiting family, Claire said. 3 weeks later, the report buried the truth in footnotes. The classified addendum did in single quotes D.19 confirmed kills, 17 coordinated fire without command. A phone call followed. 6 weeks later, Claire stood in her office when Colonel Davidson closed the door behind him. You want to explain? She did. This could end badly, he said, or you could teach advanced marksmanship. Emergency recall. She accepted. 3 years later, Fort Benning whispered her name like legend. Rachel still held Delta 7. On the anniversary, a photo arrived. 14 names, one inscription. Defended by all, saved by 2, miss you, twin. The message read, always watching your back. Claire replied, because that was the truth. The official version took shape quickly, polished and bloodless. During the defense of forward operating base Delta 7, several personnel had displayed exceptional professionalism under fire. Captain Rachel Hendress received specific mention for leadership and marksmanship. Additional contributors were referenced vaguely, folded into safe language about supporting actions and civilian presence in accordance with security protocols. 2 words reduced everything Claire had done to a footnote. The classified addendum told the real story. Major Walsh had been meticulous. Coordinates, timelines, radio transcripts, after-action statements from every survivor who could still write. 19 confirmed kills attributed to Claire, 17 to Rachel. More importantly, it detailed how the snipers, operating without formal coordination or command authority, had stabilized a defense that should have collapsed within minutes. The addendum went to 3 people. No more. One of them made a call. Claire was back behind her desk when her commanding officer entered without knocking. Colonel Davidson wasn't a man who wasted time or words. He closed the door and looked at her the way one studies a problem that refuses to simplify. I received an interesting communication this morning, he said, about an incident I'm not officially cleared to discuss. At a location that technically doesn't exist. He sat without waiting for permission. Your version. I visited my sister, Claire said evenly. There was an attack. I assisted. Davidson slid a document across the desk. The classified addendum, 19 confirmed kills, he said. Direct tactical coordination, live command communications. That's not assistance. That's combat. Yes, sir. This could go badly, he continued. Unauthorized engagement. Use of military assets, civilian contract violations, or he tapped the paper. Someone very senior believes you're wasted here, he explained the offer. Senior instructor, advanced marksmanship. Training the trainers, emergency recall classification, a leash disguised as opportunity. What if I refuse? Claire asked. Then you finish your contract and disappear quietly. Safe. Civilian. Done. She thought of Delta 7, of snow and fire, of her sister still standing watch. I accept, she said. 3 years later, Fort Benning had changed. Washout rates tripled. Survivors left sharper, colder, alive. They called Claire ice. Rachel, now a major, still held Delta 7. The base had grown into a fortress. On the anniversary, a photograph arrived. 14 names carved in stone, defended by all. Saved by 2. They misspelled your name, Rachel said over the phone. I can live with that. They talked quietly, across distance and silence, about training, about readiness, about doors opening again. Afterward, Claire stood at the window watching recruits on the range. Learning breath, learning patience, learning the fundamentals that decide who lives. The snow had stopped years ago, the lesson hadn't. Some people retreat from impossible odds, others adapt, and a rare few decide the line holds here. Not today. That was the truth. To sisters, one promise, forever. Claire remained at the window long after the call ended, watching the distant figures move across the range, tiny silhouettes in the cold, learning to breathe, to steady their hands, to understand that patience could be the difference between survival and silence. She recognized the posture immediately, the awkward tension of people who didn't yet trust the fundamentals, who still believed speed alone would save them. It never did. Her phone buzzed once more. A message from Rachel, sent after they disconnected. Miss you, twin. Claire's reply came without hesitation. Always watching your back, because that wasn't sentiment. It was doctrine. It was a promise older than uniforms and ranks, older than deployments and scars. Two people born minutes apart, shaped by the same hands, taught the same lessons long before the world decided to test them. 3 years hadn't dulled the memory. Snow, wind, the weight of a rifle biting into bone. The moment when everything balanced on trust alone and 2 shots broke the night as one. Some experiences didn't fade. They embedded. War never simplified itself. It tangled preparation, chaos, and luck until no report could separate them cleanly. Official records preferred order, timelines, safe language. They avoided naming the moments where individuals refused to accept the outcome they were given. But those moments existed, somewhere, in places that wouldn't make headlines. Young snipers would face nights where logic said retreat and instinct said hold. They would remember their training, the breathing, the math, the discipline drilled into them by instructors who spoke with quiet certainty about things they never fully explained, and behind those instructors unseen, unacknowledged were to sisters who had proven the fundamentals worked when everything else failed. Claire stepped away from the glass and gathered her notes for the next training block. Another group would arrive tomorrow, another set of lives balanced on preparation. She was ready. She always would be, because that was the truth that mattered. To sisters, one promise, forever, asterisk.